Ladies, gentlemen, I'd like to start the video with a quote from the Rockstar newswire before the DLC launched, which was a quality of life update coming to the game, which went as followed. Lesser used vehicles will be removed from the in-game websites to streamline the browsing experience. These vehicles will be made available via event showrooms, the Lucky Wheel, and other places. Now, when this came out, I immediately was like, red flag, because personally, I didn't really feel any sort of need to streamline the browsing experience because, yeah, there are a lot of vehicles in the game, but I don't really think that any of them had to be removed. So with this red flag, I put on my thinking hat and I was like, well, this is gonna create a whole lot more FOMO, but surely it's just a bunch of vehicles that are being swapped out, kind of like we're having with like the adversary mode, so I'm sure it's going to be somewhat okay. Until I started to hear some rumblings through the Twitch chat that I was streaming to. Nearly 200 vehicles have been permanently removed from the game, unobtainable to purchase on the in-game website. Yes, this is how long that list is. Nearly 200 vehicles. Now granted, if you remove something like a penumbra, I'm like, yeah, whatever. No one is really using that. That really classifies as a lesser used vehicle. Sure, get rid of it, maybe swap it out at some time, who really cares? But the moment I start to have issues with this change and just how impactful it's going to have to the game as a whole is when you're going to start removing vehicles that are meta defining. In English, basically meaning that they're on the top of the class and people actively use them inside of races, especially if they have HSW upgrades like the Sterling GT. The list kind of goes on. These are all vehicles that are on the top of its class and many people are inclined to use because of how good they are. The Rapid GT Classic, Comet SR, Paragon R, S80RR, Tygon, iMorgan, Felon, the Xeon and Xeon Cabrio, the Issy Sport. But it also doesn't stop at the point where there are also some beloved vehicles in that list too, such as the Massacro, the Jester, and many more I could spend a little bit of time to name. Obviously, this is purely here for the sake of creating FOMO and thus having everyone log in every week and try to get the vehicle so they don't miss out. This is again mostly just targeted at those newer players who are gonna have to scramble all that money together to try and get it. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a change made in GTA Online if there wasn't a little bit of an asterisk on the sentence here, because you guessed it, with the introduction of the Vinewood Car Club, you never guessed what vehicle I encountered when I walked in there. Exactly, the Sterling GT. Guess what I also saw? The RE7B. Guess what the RE7B no longer is? Exactly, purchasable on the website. So this to me signals very much that in this side of this car club, as well as the Simeon showroom and also the other showroom, that those are going to be the only places where you're going to be able to purchase these vehicles. Now luckily, there is a different way of how you can acquire these vehicles if you don't have them yet, or if you want to get them. Which is something that, thanks to Ripstakes, he sent me a DM and he was like, hey, what if you create a channel on your Discord channel and you can start having people exchanging vehicles with each other, which is exactly what I did. So if you want to participate in that, check my Discord link in the description down below. As far as I'm aware, this is only a feature that is available for PS5 and Xbox Series X and X players. So if you're on last gen or on PC, because for some reason that's still classified as a last gen console, you will not be able to do this. Meaning that if you ever felt like getting a Blade or a Massacro or, well, worse than ever, a Paragon R, which is on top of the class, you, sir, are completely shit out of luck. Now, I would understand this change if there were performance hits made to the browsing experience, but if you ever use these websites, they run perfectly fine without any issues whatsoever. They have already enhanced the browsing experience with the different tabs like the 2 doors and the 4 doors, right? It's not much, there's no search bar available to it, but it is at least something, and it makes it a little bit easier to find the vehicle that you're going for. But this change is just downright ridiculous, because it creates an idea of new vehicles releasing every week, if that is even going to happen, when it's simply not the case. Newer players are going to think that something like an F620 isn't a vehicle that the British racing driver has been memed by for the last couple of years, but instead is something brand new and that they have to go and get. Now, the same English racing driver, Ruffy, would also tell you that this car is a piece of shit and you should not waste your money on it. But those new players will think, hey, new vehicle, I don't have the money for it, FOMO is created, they think they only have a week, so they either play the game a bunch or they start grabbing towards the shark cards, which, let's be honest, that's the whole reason why nearly 200 vehicles were removed from the game. Create even more FOMO in the game, especially for those vehicles that are on the top of the class, because why am I no longer able to drive a Comet SR? How did that person end up getting it? Which is just creating a whole bunch of confusion, and it's just utterly stupid. Adding on top of the fact that we already have a big issue with the fact that there's currently FOMO created by the previous DLC, which until this day does not have every single vehicle available. The 300R, along with the Izzy Rally and many of the other vehicles released during the Los Santos Drug Wars DLC, is still not available to purchase and is going to continue to rotate, presumably with the new vehicles that are being drip fed as well. Plus, all this showroom shit is just gonna be causing a whole bunch of FOMO and forcing people into either playing the game a bunch or again getting those shark cards. This, on the surface level, is just plain business decisions. It has nothing to do with trying to enhance the experience. This has nothing to do with trying to make the websites more streamlined and make them easier accessible or provide a better overview. This is simply here to create more FOMO and more panic for the players. And if anything, it is also going to be more confusing for newer players rather than make it easier. This needs to change. At the very least, make this list significantly smaller. If you were to rotate out vehicles from time to time, fair enough. But this list is about a third of the available vehicles within GTA Online. A third of the vehicles. Rockstar, reconsider this change, because this is downright ridiculous.